Yo, what's up, people? I'm going live again. I just thought I would come back and talk a little bit more about something that I touched upon in the previous video, which was magic mushrooms. So, anybody who's old enough to remember, and I'm just kind of keeping an eye on my internet to see if it's laggy. I think it's okay. It's a little bit laggy. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But magic mushrooms. So, when I first came to London, it was September 2003, and I previously had kind of like the only kind of sort of like hallucinogenic experience I had was with Salvia divinorum, also legal at the time. I'm actually not aware what happens with Salvia divinorum at the moment. Let me have a little look. Is Salvia? My laptop is pissing me off right now. I've got to be honest. It's Salvia divinorum legal. Salvia, if you ever had it, is a bit odd, to say the least. Salvia is illegal to possess with intent to supply, possess on custodial. Oh God. Yeah. So it kind of. Oh no, that's from 2016. So that doesn't really help me, does it? Jesus God Almighty. You're not helpful. All right. Okay. So anyway, let's get back to just sort of talking about this kind of stuff. Cheers, by the way, guys. Magic mushrooms. So you come down to Camden circa 2003, and you would be able to actually buy any amount of magic mushrooms legally that you require. Now, I was learning about the wine. Let's just. There we go. There we go. I've got tissues now. Man's got tissues to fucking circumnavigate the wine mustache issues. But yeah, you come down and you just like going to the market to buy sweets. Good times. I think 2000. Let's have a little think about this. I think it was 2006 when mushrooms were made illegal. And I think that was off the back of an incident where I'm curious about my internet again. Why is my webcam doing this? This is like, it's not particularly helpful. Just bear with me one sec. Fuck this. Yeah. Okay, I think this is all right for now. But yeah, it was just like going to get sweets. Nice mushroomy sweets that we used to consume in Hornsey, which is where I am back. And I did actually say this, back in the day, I said I would be back at Hornsey, and here I am, just right on the outskirts. I just kind of edged it, edged my way in here. But yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good. Glad to be in my own place at the moment as well, because it's like previously I was for the previous sort of like 15 years I was with a housemate, so in amongst with girlfriends, but yeah, previously with housemates mainly. Not that I had any real problem with many of them, but some of them obviously, because you spend that amount of time, inevitably you fall out with people. Anyway, what the hell was I talking about? So yeah, basically magic mushrooms. And one of the weirdest thing that for me happened was when it was kind of like a two-way hallucination. So basically it was the times of legality, and we went down, me and my friend, let's say Charles, I think is the name of my friend. We ate the mushrooms, having legally bought them from Camden, and we decided for some reason to go to the pub. I don't know why we decided to do this. This is kind of a pretty crazy idea, but it's like, oh yeah, for some reason this is a great idea. I don't know why I agreed to this, but yeah, we decided to go to the pub, and that in itself is a different story, which I'll maybe touch upon in a sec. This whole night, the whole thing that I'm recounting is only in the space of about half an hour, which is kind of weird. But anyway, my friend Charles used to get. He was my main person that I would do mushrooms with, eat mushrooms with. So he's my housemate and very good friend, and still is. Well, not my housemate, but still a very good friend. But the situation was, he used to get. We were walking down the street together, one next to each other. He used to get what he used to refer to as the hand thing. So apparently, he would get a pair of hands come across his face like this. So that he called that the hand thing. I used to get something that I called the leg thing, which was I'd be walking down the street and I would be absolutely convinced. I would feel like my legs had got caught up in something, and I'd be absolutely convinced that there's a branch there, like a tree branch or something lying on the pavement. I'd look down, of course, there's nothing there. But I would be so convinced that there was. So anyway, these two things never really intersected until one night. We decided to go to the pub, which is the Three Compasses in Hornsey. We were coming up to the corner, and he was like, "Oh, Rob, I just got the hand thing." And as soon as he said that, I was like, "Oh, wow, Charles, I got the leg thing." So we didn't really talk about it. We went to the pub. Let me actually talk about what happened at the pub, because that was kind of funny, and then we could just do it kind of chronologically and get back to the what Charles said to me later. But basically, we went to the pub and it was super busy. This is a pub where the Compasses. Oh my! I don't know if my internet is being a bitch. Fuck it. Let's just continue and hope for the best. Actually, I can try to do this. So that actually works. Anyway, what were we talking about? So yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, so basically, went up to the bar. It was busy. It was very, very busy. It was a Saturday night, I think. It sounds crazy. I mean, it's not even really that crazy. Even if it was sober, it was a bit confusing. But basically, I walked up to the bar to get us a drink. It was difficult. Let's put it that way. Already, I walk up to the bar, and the woman hands me the barmaid, who's about maybe she's a little bit of an older barmaid, so perhaps maybe like mid to late 40s, and she hands me a pyramid, a paper pyramid. So I'm like, okay, and I take this off her because I don't really know what else to do. And apparently, what you've got to do is you've got to unravel the pyramid in a certain way to allow for certain answers to get you a certain kind of like prize or not get a prize and all this kind of stuff. And it was just not really the kind of thing that I wanted at that moment. We didn't really last that long in the pub, as I remember correctly. I remember Charles being very, very, very ill, let's say, and asking me to leave the place that he was being ill in. So we left. But we used to live in a great place in terms of doing mushrooms. Because basically, we used to live just in front of Ali Pali. I think I'll get that. There we go. That's the red wine mustache. We used to live just in front of Ali Pali, so we were just kind of like near the park there. And that space, if you get to the park at like midnight, early hours of the morning kind of time, that is really great time to see stars actually in London. It's one of the best places to see stars in London, especially if you think about the slope of the hill. If you go up the hill, of Ali Pali a bit, because when you go up to the top of Ali Pali, obviously you can see kind of over London. So if you think about it, it's kind of cool to go up the hill and you'll be able to see a bit more like star-wise. But also at the bottom, because there's no light pollution, there's like no lights around there at all, because it's kind of like a big park stroke cricket ground thing that doesn't have lights. So it's very dark. It's absolute darkness, actually. I think we only actually ended up staying there and watching all the stars, kind of like exhibits and all that kind of stuff, um, because there was this board that was shiny. It was kind of shiny light, oh, the shiny light, and this kind of stuff. And we went over there, and then we looked up, and it was like the vastness of the stars. And I did not realize that I could get somewhere without even getting that high. Even if I went to the top of the hill, it's not that high. With I can go somewhere that's not that high that I can see that many stars. So that was kind of weird. That's definitely kind of weird. Yeah. So magic mushrooms, I don't think should have been made illegal, because they don't really do anything that's that illegal. Obviously, you get like some people who make terrible decisions, who take them and make terrible decisions, but you get people who take any substance, alcohol or weed or whatever. What the hell is going on here, man? I'm actually quite kind of pleased about the blackness of my hair. I mean, like, fuck. You wouldn't, I guess you wouldn't necessarily realize I was approaching 40, or maybe you should, it's not too bad. I remember when I was at the, because I've worked at the same, I've worked in the same sort of like sector for like 16 years. I've been moving up the ladder, but it's been the same sector. So like I remember when I was like maybe 6, 7, 8 years younger, and I get the train to work. The station is next to my house. Basically, it's a few minutes walk from my house, and it's a few minutes walk from the hospital where I work. So it makes sense just to get the train. It's easy and it's cheap. Um, and it was more frequent at the moment. It's like a perennial Sunday service. But anyway, um, so yeah, so like I get the train to work and all that kind of stuff. Um, I forget what my actual point was going to be here. Jesus Christ. Let me just take 1 second. One of the things I would say is like having moved here, even though like having housemates is not that much of an issue, like having moved here, it's just so much better to have your own space. It's like kind of crazy. It's ridiculously better. Um, but yeah, back to the sort of topic of the conversation, which was the magic mushrooms. I don't know what's necessarily happened now. I'm not sure if it's well, no, I know obviously you can't buy, like you can't go to Camden like you were, but it's very very strange. Okay, that's not going to work. Okay, so never mind about that. Yeah, man, it's weird because like mushrooms are something that any normal person can take. Any kind of like articulation of the expression of taking them and doing them makes it sound seedy. Taking, doing, it makes it sound a bit seedy. So let's just say eating. So, eating magic mushrooms at least once a year, let's say, once every 12 months, at the very, 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 very bare minimum, it would be good. It would be, mentally beneficial. It's not necessarily that physically beneficial, but it's more of a mental drug. A drug. There we go. I just slipped into the trap. Quote unquote drug. I'm going to have a quick wee. I'm going to be back in 1 section. You're going to see nothing for about a minute or so. Just 1 sec. Sorry. Yo, sorry about that. So yeah, that had to be done. When I first had mushrooms, and we used to do it down here, me and Charles used to go to Arizona Bar, which was kind of like this wicked bar that was just off Camden High Street, and you just like sit there, and then I'd go to the happy hour and just have a half hour, like fucking, half price, 2 buy 1 get 1 free cocktails at Arizona Bar with the ice in the cocktails and the beautiful glasses and the lovely interior and exterior and palm trees, and then the mushrooms. So that was a good time. I remember my mum ringing me as well at that point, which is slightly dodgy. I remember her. Oh god, that damn thing! It's got the tissues at the ready. Yeah. So yeah, I remember my mum ringing me and I'm like in a drunk. I don't even know if we were smoking. I don't think we were smoking at the time. I think we were just drinking and doing magic mushrooms, which I guess is enough. Drinking and magic mushrooms is actually a kind of a good combination if you don't add in smoke. To be honest with you, what I felt when I was on mushrooms was I didn't really want to smoke that much. Like I felt that like that was okay. Things were fine, you know. So um yeah, I mean I didn't really feel a kind of urge to sort of like get a cigarette or anything like this, or get a spliff or anything like this on mushrooms. But certainly after after the thing is like maybe the day after, I don't know. It depends. Like I'm not really a sort of like it's difficult to sort of classify me in terms of a person who will go to sleep at this point or this point. I can do anything. Like typically my sort of sleeping pattern is like going so let's say it's Wednesday or whatever, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll go to bed at 1. My alarm's at 8. So I mean I'm hoping at some like between those 2 times to get if I'm lucky 5 hours of sleep. So I mean I'm not expecting a straight block of sleep because that's just not going to happen. But or at least not at the moment anyway. But if I can kind of like cumulatively get about 5 hours or so, I should be okay. Yeah. So, well, look, I don't want to say anything on camera that's going to kind of like sort of be detrimental to me, such about mushrooms and all that kind of thing. But they're missed. They're definitely missed. There's something about mushrooms also in terms of tapping you into a tapping you into an ongoing kind of like conveyor belt of reality that is unpredictable. It is presently unpredictable, but is subsequently very predictable. In hindsight, very predictable. Something that's unpredictable right now, but is in hindsight very predictable. So that's the way that reality kind of works. But with the magic mushroom situation, it's not really acceptable that something. I mean, I'm not advocating it by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not advocating by any stretch of the imagination the prohibition of alcohol. But, and it's a big but, it's a big favorable but, not favorable in the political sense, but favorable in just the size and niceness of the but. It does cause a lot of problems. In fact, it causes way more problems than mushrooms. Now, I'm perfectly happy. Well, look, say perfectly happy. I think we should have alcohol as legal. I'm perfectly happy to have alcohol as a legal thing. So, for me, look at this damn thing. For me, there should also be an acceptance that there's going to be. If I'm perfectly happy to let people, drink, I'm perfectly happy to let people take magic mushrooms as well, eat magic mushrooms as well. So, you know, it's I'm just checking my phone for silliness. So I don't know why there's such a massive difference, but I think the government wanted like any excuse. They wanted any excuse to put mushrooms to one side, because mushrooms are something that make people talk to each other at the very least. If they're not talking to each other, then you're thinking about what the thing is that you're talking about, and you're thinking a bit more in depth and in detail about the things that the government are doing. And I don't necessarily mean that in the sense that all the government is really, really bad. By default, the government is bad. I don't necessarily mean it in that sense. But anything that makes you think a bit more in depth about what the government does and the people, the powers that are kind of like ruling over you do, and why they make those decisions and what's the wider context of those decisions, those kind of things are not favorable for those aforementioned governments and organizations. So I can see why it's being a bit, shoved under the carpet sort of thing. They just needed an excuse. Someone jumped out of a window and killed themselves, and it's like, boom, mushrooms are really, really, really awful, because obviously nobody like kills themselves on because of alcohol. But like I say, I'm not like I'm not an anti-alcohol person. Big ups everyone who's been listening. Really enjoy going live, man. Big ups to you. Smash a like, share, give me a subscription. I'm going to try to grow this channel. I'm going to try to get more content. I'm going to try to make more comments during the day. We're coming up to 23 minutes now, so that's pretty decent. I could go on and on about mushrooms and salvia. Oh, shall I talk about that? Actually, before we, I don't know. Should yeah, fuck it, whatever, who cares? Salvia, as we were talking about before, still legal as far as I'm aware, and someone please feel free to correct me. Salvia divinorum is the thing that it is kind of amazing how it's legal, because there has to be now a good awareness of what it does. But in the sense of being a good awareness of what it does, is also an awareness, we don't really know exactly what it does. We can kind of describe the experience, but we don't know too much about exactly what we're experiencing. But as Terence McKenna was saying, you go into there's certain levels of there's certain intrepid levels of experience, and it's up to you how far you want to push it, because it's just up to you. But for me, I would like to see mushrooms be made legal again, obviously, because I think they'd be very helpful for people. I mean, maybe don't do them every week like we were getting into, because they're just so bloody great. But at least, once every 6 months, I think once every 3 to 6 months, that's a good idea. Once every month makes it a bit kind of paternalistic, maybe. So maybe not that, but certainly once. A time frame of like 3 months is good, definitely good. So okay. We're all agreed that we love mushrooms, and that's great, and that we miss Hawaiian mushrooms. And oh my god, the guy we paid like £10-15 for the mushrooms that we used to get to send us into outer space, and by at least 4 or 5 weeks afterwards, we're paying the same amount, going to the same guy, but he's giving us like bloody 80 grams. Jesus Christ. Big up Charles if you're watching, by the way. Charles, you know who you are. You know who you were going to the Camden markets with me, so big ups to you. I wish we were back in those times, but I do think we need to do that thing where we go to some holiday cottage or some sort of shoreside, seaside house, and eat a lot of Hawaiian's finest, and then see what happens afterwards. I think that's kind of a good idea. We're on 25 minutes, people. I could bang on, but this is kind of it's supposed to just be about mushrooms, so I suppose I better stop soon, because I don't want to get myself cancelled or whatever, or banned. But yeah, mushrooms, Salvia divinorum. Oh, so like, yeah, I was gonna say, fuck it. Let's talk about Salvia divinorum for a second because, well, whatever. We're live, and I like being live. So the first sort of hallucinogenic vision that I had of salvia was of a school being built in front of my vision, I suppose, and that's kind of weird. I didn't really know what to expect from salvia. I took it back. I smoked it back in a time where, back in a time, it was a long time ago. It was kind of like Aztec era. But yeah, I took it. I took it. Jesus Christ, that sounds like I sound like such a user, an abuser. But yeah, I smoked it at a time where it wasn't particularly well known. And then my first experience of it was like seeing a school being built, and then there was like a lollipop lady, and then a street, and then the kids were stopped by the lollipop lady. Sorry, the traffic and the kids were stopped by the lollipop lady, and then the kids crossed the street. So it was kind of interesting, and stuff went on like that. So I think my second one, I've never, to be honest with you, with Salvia divinorum, there is a chance to go under properly. There's a real chance to go under properly, and I've not really had a chance to do that. There was one time where I was in my old room, in my old house, and I had it on my own because no one else was around, and it was like, I don't know if it was like 25x. It was, I just used to get the strongest because, like, 5x is bullshit. 10x, 15x, whatever, it's all bullshit. It doesn't do anything. It's a waste of money. But so I'd go for the max. And then, sometimes that didn't work. Well, I mean, most of the time it's okay, but like sometimes it was a bit more sort of like intense, I suppose, than other times. But yeah, it's just such a shame, man, because the thing with magic mushrooms is like when you eat them, it enables you to kind of like think so clearly about things and analyze things so clearly, and like even if you've got some opinion about some specific thing, like it makes you kind of like evaluate that opinion, and you may come back to the same conclusion, but also you may come back to a different conclusion, and it's like, oh man, if only these things were around all the time like they used to be. But fuck it. Look, we are coming up to half an hour. I am gonna skedaddle. Thanks to everyone who's been locked in and watching. Smash the likes, hit the subscribe. I will be back chattering away about more stuff tomorrow, but like, yeah, it's about midnight or so I need to go to the bed. Big up all, and I will see you soon.